Hello, you're listening to Tony Slattery's Rambling Club, and you're most welcome.
Well, it's Friday, it's 5 to 5, and the doors to Tony Slattery's Rambling Club are open once again. Hello everyone, you are more than welcome. My name is Paul Carmichael.
And I'm Alan Lear.
And it's been a quiet old week here, but what we're looking forward to at the moment is, they've opened an old folks home, haven't they? And at the moment, what we're thinking is possibly Tony could have some sort of a shared residency there, so he could use their toilet occasionally, and maybe we could have a go.
Yes, go on. Sorry, was there something else you wanted to say about that? Or the old people's home? I mean, that's a very, 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 very expensive option, really. But I mean, it will certainly contain, Tony in some possible way during the time that he's with us. And Lloyd Loos are in abundance at Bath. And so he might be welcome, but it all depends whether he can actually afford the fees or whether you can afford the fees, because there's no such thing as a discount. Not here, I'm afraid.
No, there isn't. We should just tell our listeners that there's three of us at the moment. We've got Mr. Baines, who the gentleman who runs the local old folks home. In terms of cash, we might have a bit of a problem with cash flow, mightn't we? We've got a flow of another sort, no problem at all. But the cash, what do you think, Al?
I'm just picturing Tony walking up the front steps of the hall with, instead of a red carpet, there's just a trail of incontinence pad.
The only problem is I will not clear it up. Other people do that, not me. Or my Jane will do that for me. But he will be welcome. Again, there is no state funding, not here at Baby. But Tony will be welcome. One of the sheds, or the has what? We're in the shed at the moment. So very similar to this, I think. No windows, but I think he'll fit in very well, won't he?
I can imagine that he would. I mean, it wouldn't be that different if you just whacked him into the shed at the bottom. Hold on a moment. I think I recognise who there is lurking behind that power suit. Is that Daniel Hill?
It is. Who is that imposter? Too much.
Daniel, welcome to the Rambling Club. I mean, we'd be more than interested in getting Tony off our hands at least some of the time so that we could just unclog the pipes. But you are more than welcome to join us. Normally, on a Friday around this time, because he's never here for this sort of thing, but normally myself and Alan, just to make sure that the old bingo machine is in good working order, we normally give it a bit of a whirl and see where we end up and just have a bit of a chat for a while.
No, I'm right. I'm completely free. I'm yours.
I was going to say the wonderful thing about looking after old folks is they don't tend to move very fast. But then I remembered that when my mum's mum, my grandmother, was in a retirement home in Hoylake, there was a little old girl on a Zimmer frame who would regularly disappear, and they'd have no idea where she was. And eventually they worked out that she was going upstairs, climbing down the exterior fire escape and going over the road to the railway. How you manage an exterior fire escape on a Zimmer frame, I've no idea, but she had it down. She had the knack.
But that is an old girl that I'd like to meet any day of the week.
I think the first day of the pilot that we shot, the poor extras that were the supporting us that were getting onto the bus that we could take down to wherever we were taking them on the day trip. They were taking so long to get onto the coach because they were all quite old. And I just had to improvise. I mean, oh, for goodness sake, you please hurry up. Come on, we haven't got all day. Just get the bloody Zimmer frames onto the coach and let's go. Come on, I've got golf at 3:00. Come. Anyway.
And a legend was born. Well, I reckon we may well have a chance to hopefully talk about that, but let's give the balls a whirl and see where we ended up.
Right. Yep.
Off we go.
Tony's enchanted bingo machine. A curious contraption of cogs, levers, and glowing buttons that hums with ominous energy. This machine generates 3 completely random numbers. These numbers are fed directly into the Dewey Decimal System, the arcane reference system by which books and their contents are categorized. In this way, the bingo machine conjures from thin air a topic of conversation so enthralling, so wildly unexpected, that it leaves the members of the Rambling Club both bewildered and vaguely excited. Thus, another evening is saved from the brink of boredom, thanks to Tony's marvellous, possibly haunted and entirely inexplicable bingo machine.
Well, here we go. Another location and another set of numbers. And the numbers this time are
9, 9, 2.
992, 992. And that means that the subject is no longer assigned. So at some point, the Dewey Decimal System has decided we don't need this subject. So what we do is we go to the biggest number that we can, which would be 900, and straight away we are into the realms of history. History. Right. I am a passionate historian. I do love history. I mean, I've got a focus really, I suppose, on the Elizabethans, simply because of Shakespeare and all that sort of thing. What about you, Daniel? Have you got a particular? I always think it's fascinating with this question. If you had time travel, and we might talk about something involving that in a little bit, but if you had time travel, where would you go back to?
I would go back to, I think I'd like to go back to the Romans very briefly.
Oh.
I probably have got a bit of Roman in me somewhere, but fascinated by the Romans ever since I was at primary school. And I went to this fantastic primary school that had the most fantastic individual teachers teaching each different subject individually. So it was brilliant. Okay? And their great passion was the Romans. And so along with, the Odyssey and the Iliad being read in the mornings.
Oh, yes.
And we got a lot of Romans as well. Too much in some ways, but we did a lot of, shields and things. But I think it's a fascinating period. I think I wouldn't last long. That's the problem.
Oh, I know what you mean. I think, do you know what I've always loved? We've got, quite near here in Chester, there's a Roman amphitheatre, which Tony was fascinated by. And the thing that I find remarkable about those places, and I know I've talked about this before, is if you stand dead center in one of those and you start talking, the shape, the natural projection of them, it's just remarkable. And to have that technology when they were using shape and they were using glass and things to create a PA system, that's amazing. It must have been wonderful to be an actor, unless you were on stage and you were one of those poor sods who actually got killed whilst performing.
You're absolutely right. And I think it's something that we always forget. The first time I really realized it was we were on holiday in Greece and on one of the islands. And they said, you must go to the amphitheatre. And I went, oh, brilliant. Well, that's what the Greek one ends with. Yep. So we got a bus along and we piled out. And it was a really big one right on the coast. And could have impacted us. Anyway, so we get to the amphitheatre and I'm standing in the middle and the kids are all standing at the top and Liv's at the top as well. And I go, and I said, listen, watch how little I need to say from here, standing centre. Watch, just listen and see if you can hear me. And I went, I have a blade, but wherefore I know not lost all my mouth. I went, we can hear you, Dad. It is absolutely remarkable. And we think we're inventing the wheel, Paul, but we're not. No. Every modern theatre that I played in it's always tricky because they never learn the very basic skills, which is if you put too many obstacles in the way of us, like the National, the reason it's terrible, it's a lovely theatre, of course it is, but the reason the acoustics can be terrible, and the Barbican as well, is that they did all the sound tests before they put the fly gallery in. And they're playing catch-up all the way along. But I'm absolutely fascinated by it. And I'm also fascinated by that whole Greek drama thing of, I'm fascinated by the people that were murdered there as well. But that's a thing. But it was, I think it's just absolutely fascinating. And Shakespeare as well. They were so skilled at building theatres. Like the Globe, it's an extraordinary place.
Yeah, the architecture that you get with those places and the storytelling that goes into them. I think you've hit on something really interesting there with Shakespeare as well. The fact that Shakespeare was there giving all of this information about the Romans and so on. I love the tragedies. I'm a big fan of Coriolanus. I think mostly because It was written partly by Shakespeare, but you also get Middleton coming in there. And there's a lovely competitive thing, isn't there? Because Shakespeare is writing all the stuff where Coriolanus is going, oh, I'm old and you must respect me. And Middleton writes the bits where it's young people going, oh, bugger off, Coriolanus, you old fuck. So you get this sense of tension between two actors. Oh.
You're right, Paul. You're absolutely, you hit them here. I'm a huge fan of, Ford, Decker and Rowley. And Middleton too. But I also think that Shakespeare, again, when you're having to turn out so much stuff, a bit like, a soap every single day, and you've got new plays being done, maybe 15 on the go at once, and you've got two people involved, you're right. That tension between the two of them, it really plays out, and they add to each other, as opposed to, detract from each other. And I think that really it's wonderful. And it's wonderful to watch as well and to enjoy. And I love to play it. I really, really love to play it. And I was over the RSC when I first left drama school, and I couldn't go because the agent really mucked me up. It was really, anyway, that's another story. But I think I've been in search of that ever since, really. And my whole, rest of my whole career has been spent playing catch up to an event in history that sort of stopped me at some point and went that way. And I went, no. Not that way. I want to go the classical way, which is that way, because that's where my heritage and my player instincts come from. Love telly, I can do it, and I, Tony too, bless him. But it's go on.
Well, I'll tell you what though, and Al, you can talk about this when it comes to Tony more than me, but when it comes to the classical stuff with Tony, I think the first time probably the first time I met him. He came to do a workshop with a group of students I was working with. And at the time, I was directing a production of Romeo and Juliet. And I said to him, I've got an idea, which is I'd like the prince to be this unseen presence controlling everything. And I'd love you to do it. And Tony just got the script and he stood there by the microphone and he went, oh, okay, I'll give it a go. Bang! This performance came out. One take. We didn't need to do anything else, did we, Al? It was just remarkable. He just went for it. But I think he had a love, because you'll know about Tony's love for that classical more than me, Al. He was passionate for it, wasn't he?
And that's the problem, that if you get stuck, which you can do, let's not complain that, the work that he was doing was phenomenal. But if your classical self is classical self, that's a good one. But if the actor in you that needs to get out there and do his stuff, not just limp along, it drives you into different areas. And I think the fact that I did Romeo at Derby, it's one of my first jobs. So I was really, really, and I loved it. But she's always got the best speeches, which is, somebody said to me, who was the girl that was playing Juliet, said, Salika Robson. She said, her dad came up and he was a writer, and he said, and afterwards he went, God, he said, you did really well. He said, because I was an actor myself. He said, and I played Romeo. He said, you did really well. Good God, you did brilliantly. And I went, well, thank you. And I went, and? He said, the problem is my daughter has all the best speeches. He said, when you die, she gets up and she has the wonderful speech that follows it.
Yeah, it's like, well, Macbeth, Macbeth, you might get the tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, but Lady Macbeth gets all the good stuff.
That's right. And you see, that's the other thing about history and about women in theatre in history, the boys in history. I watched that Shakespeare in Love again, just by accident the other day. It's a remarkable film. It's really, really, really well done. And I think what they're showing there, I spent the bloke that actually directed it, John, whatever his name is, and Martin is in it. He was in No Place Like Home. And I bumped into him when he was doing it. And I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm doing, I'm nothing. It's down in, Shakespeare in Love. And I said, what are you playing? He said, oh, the big actor manager. And I went, Martin, you bloody arsehole. It's a fantastic. What are you talking about? You went, Dan, Danny. Yeah. But I yearn to do that work. That's all I really want to do. I think Tony was the same. So was Tony Irish?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, his parents were Irish. Yes, so he was second generation here. Yeah.
My dad was Irish and my mum was Welsh. So it was sort of I just think you have to get it out. And if you don't get it out, you have to get out in different ways, like turning up, with a school or with students who are doing Romeo and Juliet, and you just go, and something in you goes, whoa.
I wonder if it's that great Irish oral tradition, because Shakespeare wasn't Tony's period. When he was studying, he was a medievalist, and he was into I can't remember the specifics of his degree, but it was about the 13th century Spanish poetry of religious ecstasy, and it was one particular poet he was specializing in. But the thing about the Shakespeare was he just loved the language, the way it flowed and the rhythm of it. And I wonder if that, as you said, with your Irish Welsh heritage, I wonder if it goes back to that Celtic oral tradition, the Eisteddfod, the bardishness, all that wonderful love for the way the language feels and tastes.
Al, you are absolutely right. And it's like, I was sure somebody was talking about it on the telly the other day, but when you're in the set, I know what it was F1. And his late speech, when he's telling it all to the guy, it's a really good film. And he said, sometimes when I'm sitting there and I'm in the car and I'm going 200 miles an hour, and I just feel like I'm in the zone. It's like everything's really quiet, it's really still, and it's and nothing can stop me. And I think when you're doing really great work, it doesn't matter whether it's classical or whatever, even on telly, even on film, it's when you're doing great work and something just pitches into you, it just opens up an area within you that if you're in touch with it, it's wonderful, because it just, as you said, it just goes boom. And I think Tony had that in spades, and they phenomenal. I didn't realize he was a medievalist. That's extraordinary. And Spanish as well. Good God, yeah. I think Lorca is challenging at times.
I think that's what Tony had with the improv stuff.
Yeah.
Like what you're talking about there, which is like a flow state where everything just feels effortless. I think that's what he did with the improv comedy when he was working with, the other great practitioners like Richard Vance, Mike McShane, and Stephen Fry that he worked with. I think that the teamwork seemed effortless because they were in that state of flow when you're doing really good work, and it's just it's almost like an extra muscle kicks in, and you just. It's the same thing that sports players presumably get. Where, I think Mike Brearley, the English batsman, has written a book about that state of almost trance-like when you're working in it as one with your material.
Absolutely right. And yeah, there was a girl, and the other great cruiser who was really from I think South Africa or Rhodesia. It was Kevin. Was it Kevin Peterson? Yeah, and he was just extraordinary, and a lot of the wonderful Caribbean players as well. The guy that did 6 sixes when he was supposed to not play for the South African team. That wonderful wonderful cricketer, and I remember watching in black and white with my dad, who wasn't a cricket fan at all, but he just loved it so much when he was playing, and watching him do 6 sixes in 6 runs in 6 balls, and it was so, as you said, effortless. And I think that's also what it's about. I think that you don't. My at Bristol, it was all about not working. Don't stop working. Stop working. Just stop. All right. You don't need to work so hard. Stop. No, just stop. Just stand there and just be. Don't need to work on it. Get your technique right, get your voice right, know what the space is you're playing in and fill it, and pitch right. But whatever that meant then. But you just allow yourself to be, not to push it or go, oh hello, I'm here. Don't forget me. I'll be on in a minute. Don't worry. I've got my big bit later on. And I think Tony had that in spades, and Stephen has it. I mean, I've worked with Stephen a couple of 3 or 4 times, and it's remarkable with all the things he's had to bear throughout his whole life. And he has this propensity of just being effortless. And even when, he's really tortured or whatever, he's still able to go, whoa, I think the work he did, when he did Oscar Wilde was terrific work. It goes much further than anything that you would normally witness, but it really is. So getting back to Paul and that whole history thing, I think I was on. So we had theatre history and a film every Friday afternoon at the Bristol Rig, and the chap that used to have to take the class was a guy. I better not name names, but it was Adrian, very pleasant. And that had always not rated him as a director, really. And so we used to give him, odd classes at the school. And if he directed anything, it was never one that, the big people were coming down to see. And I did one with him. And I think there was something about me and him that sort of slightly clashed. Because I think he thought I was, just a kid from the sticks who was there doing, all the big work. And I was lucky that I was working during the time that I was at drama school. And sometimes he was in the plays that I was doing at the radio broadcast base in Bristol as well. And I turn up and he'd be there. And I need the money. And he goes, Handel, why aren't you at school? And I said, well, Adrian, why are you not at school?
Well, here we are, another location and another ramble with our special guest president, Daniel Hill. And the numbers this time are
6, 3, 2.
632, 632. And that means that the subject is plant injuries and diseases. Now, I immediately think of triffids here when somebody says plant injuries, which are, I've got, how people, when you were kids and there were things that you remember being absolutely terrifying. When I was 6, the BBC did a version of Day of the Triffids, and the programme bloody terrified me, but the worst thing was I had a nightmare, which I remember to this day, which was Sarah Green presenting Blue Peter, doing a filmed piece on a pedalo, and then all these bloody triffids start coming towards the boat on the water 40 years ago, and I'm still freaked out by this dream. I don't know if this is specific to triffids, but the subject is plant injuries and diseases. Any thoughts?
Well, plant injuries and diseases. I do sometimes get an allergy to certain plants and things. And I was in the garden, and I love a bit of gardening, like my mum and dad did, and I really like it. It's very bitter, and it's just good for you, as Shakespeare said. It's you've got to do it, because it takes a lot of the old crap away. But plant diseases, yes. So I put my hand into it was a sort of hairy sort of bush that I thought, oh, come on, just get it out. And I put it in, and within about 3 minutes, no one was here at the time, and my whole hand went like that. I mean, literally blew up. And I'm not, it was like, luckily the doctor wasn't too far away. So I went down there, and I knocked on the door. I said, do you mind if I just come in, because it was late? And he said, he went, oh yeah, okay, come in. I saw the nurse who was there as well, and she went, and bless her heart, she said, yes, I haven't got a clue what that is. And I said, okay. I said, then, is there anything you can do? Because I'm working at the moment. And it was, I've got to be in studio tomorrow. And she went, oh, I don't know what about that. I can't do anything about that. No, I can't. And she was the same lady who went, again, another plant, went a Sunday palm from church, so we got the palms on a Sunday, and they are lethal because they've got these very sharp points.
Yeah.
And we always put them in a little sort of pot on the mantelpiece. And no one was here again, just the dog and another dog, a wonderful bird, Poppy. And I said, look, and so I'm just checking. I'm just checking something, bloody actors. And I was checking something on my face, and my eye was scratched by the palms and the palm, and it ripped across my sclerotic layer right on the front. So here, like that, and my whole vision in that eye went, and I went, oh my God. And the dog was going nuts, and I went, God, I said, okay, calm down. but it was a kaleidoscope, really sore as well. I'm pain. So I run down to the same doctor. I come back to the other one, do like that. Well, and that's the doctor, and I say, same doctor, Dr. Brown. He's there, and hello, you're right. He said, put up with me just about the accident here. What's happened? I went, I've just, I've scratched my eye. And he went, okay, so put a drop in to anesthetize it. And he went, oh gosh. He said, yes. He said, you have. And I said, he said, all I can see is a sort of kaleidoscope. And he went, yes, you've scratched your sclerotic layer. He said, and don't worry. He said, don't worry. He said, I'll put a drop of anesthetic in. He said, we'll just go a bit wide where the pupils would dilate. But go and see the nurse, and she grabbed mine too. I said, go and see the nurse, and she'll just patch you up. And I went, are you sure, doctor? I said, because I really got to look after my eyes, and I have to. Oh no, I go to see her. Hello, Daniel. I said, I'm very well, thank you, Miss Pearl. She's very good. And she'd worked, in the first ward. It was that long ago, and that, oh, bless her. Oh. And she sat and she went, oh dear. She said, oh dear. She said, you have done a nasty accident. But better patch up your eye. And so she got this huge bandage. This great bandage out. And she went, bring it around my clothes again. For those who are oral now, I've got bits of tissue going around my head. Great big swing. Oh, man, nowhere near my eye at all. I'll get this on my luck. Right like that. And I'm going, and so it's right, almost like a little sort of tinted bit of the sun. And I'm like a visor. You're a bit of historical there. A bit of like a visor, Henry V, so magical, all the French. And so I'm going, thank you so much. And she said, right, okay. I think that'll do you. I think as I walked out of the surgery with the sort of First World War, great big sort of giant wrapping right the way around it.
Like a turban around you.
Yeah, with nowhere near my eyes. And I went, oh, Dad, all the people, bless them, all knew me. They went, what have you done? What have you done? You don't know you've been in the First World War. You're practicing for journeys then. I said, I've been there. I said, no, I've just got to go home. So I get, and my darling lived on, and I went from work at the beach. The dog's going nuts, and I think I should send you. What's that round your head? Laughing, and I went, don't laugh. I said, I've scratched my cornea. She went, oh, for goodness sakes, jump in the car. We go out to Moorfields, and luckily, and get there. I said, we go inside. I'm very kind. And they sit me down, they have a quick look, and they go, oh no, right, go through, just go through. And an eye test. I'm sitting there looking at the eye board, giant eye board. I go, AE51738548RGG1111. I thought I'm doing really well here, really, really well. And news behind me, and I'm going, oh, okay. And then the nurse went, that was amazing, well done. I go straight into the person that's behind that sort of the other side. So I go there, and there's a consultant there, waiting to sort of strap me up, and it said, you didn't get one letter right. They strapped me up in this great big sort of brilliant piece of thing, and he went, he said, come back tomorrow. He said, and I'll take it off, and if it's stuck, I went, if it what? And he said, if it's stuck, you'll be all right. If it's stuck, what do you mean? I said, well, he said, I've scraped off the whole of your sclerotic layer, and so it will now regrow overnight. What? And he said, it will regrow overnight. He said, when you come back tomorrow, I'll take it off, and it will be fine. So I go back the next day, get there, and he said, no, it's very sore. And he said, that. So I went back in, same bloke, brilliant. And he said, oh, hello, you're back. He said, how's it been? And I went, fine, I think. And he went, so he started to undo it, climbed me into that, god-awful contraption, but they're so brilliant at it. So, same in your eye, you probably had it, well, click in your eye, and they does the job, takes it off, and as he's taking it off, I feel this pulling, a bit like an elastoplast and bandage when you're anything, any form of it, and it rips off. And he went, oh dear. And I went, what? And he said, it's gone. And I went, what? It's gone where? And he went, you're one of the unlucky ones because you have these, they're like stickers for like, toy arrows that, you shoot at, they stick on, but they're suction pads that sit on in the front of your eye. Okay. And you have, most people, you yourself have a numerous amount. But the injury that you had, Mara, will reduce that, and it'll keep on reducing it the more we have to do it. And he said, so what I'm going to do is this. And I said, what? And he said, I'm going to do it again. I've got to scrape it all off again. I said, it's all right, don't worry, but you should be worried as well. And he's, thank you. And he said, pat me back up, puts the stuff all back on again, brilliantly done. And he said, okay, is your wife out there? And I went, yes, she is. Call her through. And so I say, blip. And he comes through. He's got to lie down for 48 hours. And if he moves his eyes in that time, the chances are he will not be able to see in that eye ever again. I'm going, what? And he must lie absolutely still for 48 hours. He must not move. When you get into the car now, make him lie down flat on in the car. It's not a Golf I bought. He's about 10 years old, 20 years old by the time I got rid of it. And he said, lie completely flat on your back. Do not move your eyes. Pee in the bed, pee in a pot, do whatever you have to do, but don't get up, just lie there. So he get me back home, and it's really worried. I'm really worried. The kids are really worried. And I'm thinking, no, okay. I said, ring then the doctor, please. Not the doctor. It was not like the fag. He liked a lot of other things as well. But delightful bloke. Anyone? And I said, Ben, can you help me? I've got to get through 48 hours because I've injured my eye. Oh, dear. So that's really bad. God, that's not very good. He said, oh, well. I said, what do you want? I said, 48 hours. And he said, well, what about a lot of diazepam? What? I said, my mum was hooked on that. And he went, no. I'm just going to give you, I'll be your dealer for you. I'm going to give you just enough to knock you out. He said, get a good tape to listen to, or whatever, but don't open your eyes and just keep still. And I went, so she came back, gave the diazepam to Olivia, and came back, I says, and he went, take one now, right now, take two if you want. And he said, lie down, don't wake up. And some other mates who've been working on, around the world in 80 days. Was the director, producer, he came around and he said, I heard you're not well. He said, I've got the tapes for you. And I went, what tapes? And he went, around the world in 80 days. So I left there for 48 hours, this thing, to around the world in 80 days. And at the end of it, I woke up with and don't move, whatever. Get back to Moorfields. And he takes it off and he goes, it's there. It's there. You didn't move. He said, well, I wouldn't move. He said, because it's my eye. And he said, you would be amazed how people don't do it. They just don't believe it. So there we are. That's an optical thing, and that's a plant thing, and that's a para-palm thing. But I think, getting back to your other one, yeah, so my arm, so ironically, I'm always getting hay fever sort of things and bites and things like that. So I was stuffed full of antihistamines, and it went down. And for an audition at the same time, it's still by this big. I went for, Nottingham Playhouse, a big play there. And then I think it was Richard running in, and he saw my arm and went, what have you done to your arm? What have you done to your arm? We start rehearsals on Monday. And I went, well, when you open? And he said, well, not for another 6 weeks. I went, well, what are you worried about? And he said, well, it's just so awful. And I went, thank you very much. And I didn't get a bloody job either.
Oh, I remember. So, I've completely forgot about this until you said this, Daniel. Our school nurse, when I was at secondary school, she did not suffer fools lightly. This was a woman who had been imprisoned at Auschwitz. So she did not. So you could go in there with pretty much anything, and she'd give you a look up and down, and she'd go, sit in the magic chair for 5 minutes, you'll be fine. And that was all you ever got, was sit in the magic chair, until one day, because I hated maths so much. I love drama, I love music, I hated maths. We had a maths test, And it was at the height of summer, and I thought, well, I've got hay fever. What I really need is a decent hay fever attack. So I went onto the school field and I collected as much grass seed as I could and then just stuck it into my face, in my eyes, breathed it in, and I thought that should do it. Within 2 minutes, I couldn't see a bloody thing, and I had a full-blown asthma attack. So I got out the maths test until the next day, and then I had to do it instead of drama. That taught me.
That is a very similar thing. So I was at drama school, and it's the end of the day, but it was coming out at the end of the term, end of my first term. I've got to tell you about how I finished, but it was at the end of my first term, and I always tried to get to the bank on a Friday afternoon because my grant, which was only there by the grace of God, was I had to get £2 out from the bank for the weekend, and there was no cash otherwise, and so I walked over to Whiteledges Road, but I was in a wonderful voice lesson with a wonderful Maggie Ross, who was my teacher for 3 years. We're sorry, Jane, just stepping on the dog. Murdered the dog, but she's still there. And lovely one from Orkney and Shetland. Lovely woman, teacher's fantastic, very ballsy, lovely, great teacher. And she said, I said, oh, Maggie, oh, I need to get my hay fever. So sorry. I need to get my hay fever medication, and it's in the chemist over on Whiteledges Road. And she said, oh, what? And she's like, it's less, you? Oh, bugger off, go and get it then. Get all the way over to Wayne, get the money just as they close and get that no cash machine. So I run back. Yes, done it. I go back into the class, and guess what happens? I get a full attack of hay fever. And ever since then, I've had it. Ever since that. So there is a God video there somewhere going, watch out, mate, watch it.
Well, here we are. Third location, third set of numbers. The numbers are
7, 5, 3.
753, 753. And the subject is symbolism, allegory, mythology, legend. It's wide-ranging. Symbolism, allegory, mythology, legend. Straight away, I'm just going to bowl into this one with you, our guest president, Daniel Hill. When it comes to legends, what was Tom Baker really like to work with?
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. He was more than, he is just, everything you see on there is him. If in any way as an actor you think, I'm with Tom, that's a bit weird. I never thought that because my training, I was a Catholic kid from a working class family who went to the Bristol Vic Theatre School. And he was very, loved that. He said, but he also loved the fact that I've just been off doing some theatre and stuff. And I was just feet on the ground, and I just want to play. I just haven't played, and that's him. He's a player. He just loves playing, and he loves kids, and he loves, loves being Doctor Who, and he loves having great big deep pockets for. It's extraordinary. You probably know this already, but I love Tom. I love him. He's just a wonderful, wonderful, great star. And more than that, he's just got this massive. He went to a Jesuit school. I think he trained as a Jesuit priest for a while, something like that. But he has this huge, great being and a huge, great heart. And so working on Shada was just extraordinary because I'm so lucky that I was given the assistant part for that, Chris, who the scientist, and I popped into Television Centre, to go and get to get a cup of tea, con my way and past the awful guards that were on the prison. Well, I'm sure it's the guards on Television Centre gates. Oh dear God, they would say the most awful things to you, like if you were doing a First World War thing, they go and you'd be in First World War costume, you'd go, I'll get back to Tom in a sec. And they say, what? Okay. And I'd forget something, and I got to go down to the gate and tell the gate and go back out, collect some from outside. And they go, in my First World War flyers costume, a German one, with the German, flying helmet on his head, in black leather. First World War. And so I go down there, and I say, right, okay, I need to go out and just go, what are you? Are you an extra? You an extra? No, I'm not an extra, actually. But I actually got huge respect for people who are extras because they do a really fantastic. You're an extra. No, I am not an extra. I'm Daniel Hill. And if you look on your bloody list, you'll see that I'm down in studio TC3, just up there. And look at me. I'm covered in First World War flying uniform. And I've even got black on my face from the grease from the machine that I've just been flying. Don't you understand that I've got to go back into studio, and you're keeping me busy by saying these awful things I'm going to report you. So you report me, you can do whatever you want. Extra on my life. There's a nutter down there. I guess there's a nutter down there who's just been screaming these things to me. Well, I think you ought to make a formal complaint. I said, yes, I want to make a formal complaint. All that I want to do is just go to do my job. Are you on the list? And I went, yes, I am. I'm doing wings. And I was also doing Lenny Henry. And I said, I'm doing wings. And he said, right, okay. He forgot to put my name down. I went, oh dear.
Because they were tough, weren't they? The commissioners. I mean, you've got the commissioners at TV Centre. I remember one of them famously only had one arm. But once you got past them, you've got to get past the women in reception. They sounded fierce.
I go in. I would always, because they're always lovely. But if you actually went up to them and you said, oh, hi, Clarence, or hi, Amanda, how tell you as things, and chat with them, say, all right, okay. And they said, I'm going to go. I said, oh, I'm fine. And collect your key. And I said, oh, it's fine. I said, how's things otherwise? And she went, oh, really, I really like you in no place like that. I went, oh, that's really kind of you to say that. It's really kind, thank you. And she went, can I have a face rub? Yeah, of course, you can. Don't worry about all that, of course. But okay. And they said, and I'd always be saying, please, can I have it was a crap dressing room, and I've been the worst in the world. First job I did there at Television Centre, it was super hard. And I was doing a really good part without any getting our names. And I said, and he said, I said, look, is there any way I could have tried had that? There was no light in the dressing room at all. It's right at the end. It was at the bottom, red assembly, and it was right at the end of the corridor. And so anyway, so I opened the door, completely black, no bed, nothing, no lights, nothing. And I went, Dan, just get on with it. That's your name. Get on with it. Just do it. All right, just do it. Shut up, get on with it. Do it. Can you see the costume? It's the costume person going, I've got your, he said, where are the lights? Where's the bed? Oh, and I said, this is my gypsy. Oh, well, you're fine. You sort it out then. So I go back upstairs. I talk to this wonderful girl on reception. She says, oh, listen, why don't you go in number 13? I said, nobody wants to be there. I said, yeah, I'm very happy to be in number 13. So I lovely dress room in here. But it was no, it is terrible. You have to charm them, Paul. Yeah. But no, it's not charming them. It's just treating them for what they are. It's a bloody difficult job. And, and they're having to deal with all these really ropey people. And, and a lot of people are very nervous to do things. And I was sitting in Tom Baker, so sitting in main reception, and someone comes in, looked like an actress in her mid-30s, and looked at me and went, oh, well, you'll do very well. And I went, oh, thank you. Well, my name's Barbara. And I said, all right. I said, right, okay, I'm just going to see my husband. He's the director here. I went, lovely Russia. He's the director here. No, you're very nice, lovely. And I said, oh, good for you. I said, well, I'm going out for something in a minute. I said, well, I don't talk about it because I don't like. Just go up and do it. And she said, all right, okay. So she went back upstairs and she was Pennant Roberts' wife. I didn't know that. So she goes back to the office and she went, listen, I've just seen someone downstairs who looks exactly right for Chris Parsons. Because you read it, or because you had a small part on it as well. She should play Chris Parsons. Well, hang on a minute, I haven't bloody met him. Yeah, he could be bloody useless. But his name's Dan. I think it's right. So I knock on the door because I'm called up by Liv, who was the actual production secretary. And that's why I knock on the door. I walk in, it's him. And I went, sorry? It's him. It's him. He's the one, the bum with the black girl, sitting down in the reception. And he literally went, well, Bethan is everyone. Well, he said, well, what is she like? She said, oh, he said, actually, no, you've been recommended by Michael Bryan and Dougie Camfield. Think you're all right. Do you want to play Chris Parsons? And I said, yeah, you bet. And I hadn't read all the part. Dougie, he said, it's Dougie. Yeah. And he said, you have fun. We'll go to Cambridge for brilliant. I said, I'm in studio for performance. And Tom's great. You love Tom. And I went, you bet, like a shot. So I walked out and badass conversation and says to the girl on the rest. It's the luckiest day I've ever had in this building. I've been really lucky there. It was wonderful for me. And Tom is just the absolute bee's knees. Anybody ever says anything bad about him, I just get wrong. You just don't. Okay? He's the saucier. And so when we did Shada again, about 3-4 years ago, to do the film of it, which then they turned to the series again, because we were hit by a strike, as people who don't know the show, we're hit by a strike, which was really devastating, but actually quite nice for actors because you got more fees. So it's all a bit tragic. But so when we re-picked it up, and Tom said, I will do it this time. I will, because he's refused to do it before. And just linking it a bit, that's what we did. And he said, so we were doing the whole thing. So I went down to see Tom. So I walked in, and it was just like, I've seen him quite a few times as well, but it was just like we were back in that rehearsal room and studio again. And he had all the big 2-inch tapes in front of him going, and look at you. And I mean, Tom, I'm so nervous. He said, watch this tape. So it's a bit where he's saying, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And it's my low. So he says, watch this. He said, I'll just watch this. He said, I'm talking to you, Mr. Black Ears. And so I do it. And he goes, look at that. And I thought, as we were running up to record, lovely Ralph was in the same. It was a PA, BM. So, right, okay, man. Okay, we've got 5 minutes to get this thing in. Literally 5 minutes to get it in. Right, here we go. And okay, Dan, there's no time for all that. You just got to get on with it, all right? And I'm standing there, and I know that in my head, back in 1979, I'm thinking, unleash. Don't blow it. Don't get it right. Get it right. Get it right. Get it on my face. You couldn't see anything. Nothing at all. Very calm. Really calm. Inside my head. I was like, John's there. I got down. Here we go. I'm right. So they sound. I said, do the take, and we get it in. And I put an extra doctor into it. And he goes, that doctor. He said, I'm going to call you Bristol from now on. Why Bristol? Is it? Well, you went to Bristol Theatre School. It's in a bit Bristol. It's true.
Because doesn't he refer to the character as Bristol at some point on screen? Yeah. Wow.
Because we were rehearsing at the same time as being in the studio and also going off film. So we're going back to North Acton, which I wish you could have been there. Did you ever go there?
I didn't. I love hearing, as Alan will tell you, I love hearing about the Acton Hilton. It's just,
It's absolutely. So I worked for him. So this is quite historical. So I was at drama school, and before I got to drama school, I'd auditioned when I was 16 and did Prospero, as I probably said earlier. And Prospero for my audition, it was charm, but he just went, you could have all the fucking juveniles you could have chosen. You choose a fucking 90-year-old. I don't know. It's a great part now. It's just so when I actually got him, as I came and I tell my mum and dad, And they say, and I've got a 3-year course, but I've got 18 months to burn, and I don't know what to do. So I end up pushing scenery at the Bristol, and it's fantastic, wonderful. I loved it, and they eventually give me my equity on, and it was even more wonderful. So just as I'm finishing, I'm saying to my mum and dad, "You've got to fill in my grant forms," and I'd applied for them. Went down to College Green, picked them up, and brought them back home. Great big pack of them, and normally they send them, and I said, "No, I'll come and pick them up." I said, because I just want to get them and get on with it. So I've got to fill it in. You've got to fill it in, guys. I can't do this. I can do a lot of it, but you've got to fit it in. The last bit. And I went, yeah, of course, of course. So I get the grant forms, and eventually, and I go, why haven't they gone? Because they're sitting on the side, and they're not even in the envelope. And I went, Mum, Dad, that's my grant form. It's got to get into the Bristol, to the council. If we've got to get it in. Oh, it'll be all right. If we have to take it down to the post office, I talked about having. Okay, all right, okay. I'm not there yet. and I've got 3 shows to do that week. In the studio where I was there, with all that smell, and so I take it down to the post office, and I went, this has got to go. It's got to go in the post now. And they went, fine, okay, it's fine. Get the stamp, put it on, put it in the air. He said, "Oh, do you want me to give it to me?" I went, "No, I'll put it actually in the box because I just want to make sure it's gone." And he went, "Okay." So I do it. I try. Finish off at the theatre. They've all been so kind to me. So I get on my first day at drama school. I've been waiting 18 months to get there. I'm just desperate to get there and just be taught and to train and play. And I've had a wonderful time at the theatre. Fantastic. And they've actually made me an acting ASM at the end as well. So because they wouldn't give me the £1 prize.
I remember you saying, yeah.
So I'm at science. I'm at drama school. That runner comes out and he says, I'm meeting all these wonderful people, Trudy Steiner, and wonderful in our group. And I go, so I get there and Matt goes, Danny. I went, what, man? What, that? And I knew him a lot better now because of the theatre. And I had to do another, coming to a couple of pieces. And he went, that's all right, mate, you're in. I said, look. He said, what? And he said, your grant, there is no money. And I went, there is no money. No money. There is no money. And I went, what do you mean there's no money? And he said, there is no money. And I went, oh, all right. And he went, what do you mean, all right? And I said, I put the grant forms in because I put them into the post box. And he went, yeah, but it got there too late. He said, so you go now, down to council, down to the council house. I said, I'm not sure I know how to get there from here. I said, but just get the bus down there now. Go down there now. He said, and I've been ringing Peter O'Toole this morning to try and pay your fees because there is no money. You can't come to the school without the money. And I went, now, it will be all right. Okay? It will be all right. And he went, what do you mean it will be all right? I said, it will be all right, Matt. Okay? I'll go down now. Okay? So I get on the bus, I go all the way down there, go up to the 4th floor, whatever it was, and into the drama, and whatever they called it, and the Grant's place, and there's a woman at the door. I go in, I said, hello, and she had a very tight Dutch bun, they're scraped around the back of her head, very nice, and sitting there, she went, there's no money. There is no money. And I went, okay. And she said, what do you mean, okay? And I said, there is no money. Your grant form came in too late. It's way past the bit. There is no money. Next year, you might be able to have a grant then. But this year, there is no money. And I went, fine. Okay. I'll go. I said, that's all right. It's fine. I'll go back out to the school. And she went, what do you mean go back out to the school? I went, well, I said, if you haven't got any money, then there's nothing we can do. And she said, oh, for goodness sake, sit down. Sit down. I went, sit down. I went, okay. So she went, I know you did a few shows at the theatre. I went, yes, I gave. And she went, and you worked with all these other people. She went, so that's all good. And you've got into the school. That's brilliant. He said, but, there is no money. And I said, well, as I said, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I'll go back up to the school and you can get on with what you're doing for the rest of the day. And she went, look, stop. Just stop. All right, just sit there. Who is your favourite actor? And I went, Chris Harris. What? Chris Harris? Why did you say Chris Harris? Why did you say Chris Harris? Why did you say Chris Harris? And because he's a genius. I said, he's a clown. He can do everything. He can clown. He's a tragedian. He's also, his comedy is phenomenal. And he's been a mentor to me for the last, few years. And she said, well, he happens to be my best friend. I'm going to give you your grant. I said you didn't have any money. And she said, don't. And she laughed and she went, don't stop that one. I will find it. Wherever I can, I will find it. And I said, why? Okay, don't go now. Just sit there for a moment. She said, I'm going to give you 3 years grant. You'll get a full grant for all 3 years. You'll get all your travel, all your accommodation, and you'll get extra money for all your, blah, blah, blah. And all the things you need for the school, you will get those as well. Okay? Now, right, okay, do you understand what I'm saying? I said, that is amazing, but I'm really worried about the money that you're not going to be able to give to other people. And she went, shush about all that. I will sort that out, all right? Go back to the school right now, okay, and enjoy your first term. And let me know how you're getting on. I went, well, thank you. Thank you so much. Got back from the bus, going up to the school, and that was absolutely too me to care about. I went, what the fuck did you say to her? What did you say? And I said, I just said it was all right. And then he said, yes, but you got a bang lot. It's thousands and thousands, Danny. It's thousands and thousands of pounds. And it's all just come into the bank right now. And I went, nah. I said, she asked me who my favourite actor was. And I said, Chris Harris. And he went, yes. He said, yes, what he is. He's a wonderful actor. And I said, yeah, she did say to me, you could have said anybody, Ralph Richardson, Lars Olivier, John Gilgan invited you. And I said, no, they're not proper actors. Chris is the proper actor. He's the real actor because he's the one that can really do it. Anything. It's not about just being. It's about being able to be it, to do anything. And he went, I don't know how you did that. I don't know, but you're in. Come on, come in. He said, Peter O'Toole was just about to write a check for a small part of it. I said, oh, Matt, it's fine. I told you, Matt, it's going to be fine. All right, it'll be fine. And now at school, I cannot believe my luck. And Adrian Kent, who was never that fond of me, but he was also a bit jealous, I think, because of his wife, liked me quite a lot. And God knows why. And I said, so I said to him, so I was playing one line in sharing a line in King Lear. And I said, Adrian, I'm actually sharing the line with Simon. Is there any chance we could sort of, have a few more lines, in maybe another scene? He went, well, no. I mean, that's the line. I said, oh, right, okay. Fine. I said, that's fine. I said, well, is it possible that we block that line now? And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, if we block that line now, we then could probably go off and do something else because you don't need us, do you? And he, you what? And I said, okay, well, Elliot, I said, so, Simon, he's from school earlier. All right. So, Elliot, no, listen, should we do our line? And I said, it's me and Darth. So what's your bit? And he went, no. And I said, what's mine? He said, my. And I said, which bit do we do together? Lord. And I went, no, my Lord. Is that all right, Adrian? And he went, well, yes, all right. She said, but, you haven't blocked it. I said, well, that's all right. I said, do you mind if we just go off and do some other work on King Lear? And maybe we could come back and do a couple of scenes. Oh, no, you can't. I went, well, why don't we just go off and get out of your hair? Why don't we do that? Yes, get out of my hair. So we left. Ended up doing some wonderful scenes as King Lear and the Fool. So I'm back in the school. And they all went really well. And at the end, so when we did the actual scenes, we did some extra stuff as well. That lovely Rudy Shelley directed. Brilliant. And he said, when we did our line and the notes, Archie was that one. Well, I thought the most exciting thing in the whole scene was the, oh, hold my lord. Well done, Danny. And well done, Elliot. And well done doing the fool in King Lear. So there's a pair of gods here. I say, let's go promote. So I'm sitting in class, and so I go, Erica comes in. Matt wants to see you. Matt wants to see you now. And I went, I'm doing a big scene. And I said, just the exercise, really. I said, all right. So I go back in, and he says, they want to see you for Forget-Me-Not Lane. And Forget-Me-Not Lane is written by Peter Nichols, who was at the school. And a great, fantastic play about the First and Second World War and his time. And I said, what? And he said, no, I'd done this back small tellies, Tom Rand schooled us. And I said, yeah. And I said, well, yes, no. Anyway, they want to see you for Frank. And I went, no. And I went, I said, I don't know the play. Sorry. So I thought it was brilliant. And he said, hang on a minute. He said, look, they want to see you up on the BBC and they want to see you tomorrow. Okay. And so go out. And I went, no. I said, no, I'm not doing it. Okay. You just tell them to fuck off. And what? I said, just tell them to fuck off. Tell them to fuck off. I'm here to fucking train. And I said, no, I know exactly what you'll do the moment I leave this school and get on that train and go out to the BBC. You will say, you're out of the school. And he went, that's exactly what I am going to say. And I said, well, I've said it for you. I said, so give me the fucking phone and I'll ring the fucking BBC. 02000108 743 8000. And I know what the extension is as well. And he went, what? And I said, I'm going to do it right. And Erica gave me the phone and I went, hello, is that the BBC? I said, put me through to Forget-Me-Not Lane. And he went, put the phone down now. Put the phone down now. Said, are you sure? And I put the phone down on him. He said, but it's got Albert Finney in it. They'll think, you'll be just offered more and more. I said, nah, I've told you. It's fucking television, all right? It's just television. It's not what we do here, all right? I'm here to train. And that's that. Sorry. He said, all right. I'll let you do it. If you go, I'll let you do it. And I went, Erica, give me a piece of paper. Please give me a piece of paper with a pen. So I got a pen. I went, write on this piece of paper now. I, Nat Brenner, promise that Daniel Hill will not be thrown out of the school. And he went, I'm not going to do that. Right? I write it down now. I said, I'm not going to go up for it. And I said, that's on your head. And he writes it down. I liked it. I loved it. Nat Brenner, you will not be thrown out of the school. I went, Erica, you hold that, okay? Put it in my file as well, would you? I said, because I know what he's like. I said, if I get anything from it, it'll be really gross. He said, but you'll have to use some money if you get it to the students. And I went, I'll do anything you want, Matt. So I get the job, come back, and I'm going to get Ivor Street. Might be a lovely part. I went, on the back of a lovely, wonderful director. That's why I start the show. And I'm out for 6 weeks, staying with my friend Chris Harris in Wimbledon and his lovely wife and son. That's right, okay. So we're in rehearsal. I was going, Danny. I went, Albert, no, Albert, Salvi. And I went, I can't call you Alfie. I said, that's really weird. You went, where's your daddy? Yeah, no, Albie. That's the whole thing. I was, full of it up there in the canteen. He said, yeah, I'm Albie, all right? You're just like me. You're just like me. And I went, well, that's brilliant. Thank you, Albert. Thank you. And my brother was getting married the following Saturday, just before we were going to studio on the Sunday. And so he was very excited. And he said, Dan, what are you doing for the weekend? I went, I've got a wedding. My brother's getting married. Oh, wedding, loads of champagne. I went, not a lot of champagne. A lot of beer. He said, right, how are you going to get to Paddington? He said, you're going to be bloody late. And I went, bloody Peter Nichols gone all bloody time. He said, I'll give you a lift. You give me a lift. I went, that'd be brilliant. And he said, go downstairs, go out the front. And his driver's there with this huge, great, wonderful bloody sports car. Beautiful sports car, like an E-Type Joe, but posher. And he went, and his driver was called Tony. And he went, Tony, give me the keys. And he went, what, Albert? No, fuck off. Anyway, give me the keys. I'm going to drive Danny all the way out to Paddington. He said, give me the keys. Give me the bloody keys. And Nuke is waiting for you at the flat in Knightsbridge. And I've been waiting for her for a whole bloody lifetime. He said, give me the bloody keys. I'm driving him. He said, well, what will I do? He said, get the bloody tube. And he went, well, you bloody walk then. He said, give me the keys. I'll get in the car. And he went, put finger this down. I went, it's brilliant. So, one, it's rough right the way up to. It's fantastic. One, he said, he said, I don't mind breaking the speed limit with you in the car. I was wondering, well, Dan, I went, you're in studio tomorrow. We're first time. Yeah, you and me, Dan. You and me, Dan. Dan, but that is fantastic. He said, yeah, I have a really good time. So I get back home, the wedding's all right. Afterwards, there's this massive fight in the social that they're having afterwards. A massive Irish fight in this huge, great Sarton club, which I've got them into because they like me and I've done some discos for the kids. And I said to Chris, so this huge fight. My poor mum and I are clapped in the middle of the dance floor. Real. So I get back home and I've got to be on the train at 6 a.m. tomorrow to get to the studio for 9 o'clock. And I said, and how can you do that? So he said, yeah, you just have to do it, son, because that's where I get the milk train again. I get it, and I get to the studio. Get there, and Albert's waiting in the section. And I'm like, Johnny, what was it like? And I went, oh, it's great, Albert. I'm a champagne. I went, no champagne at all. So can't do this. So I'm in studio. I'm doing my final scene, and he said, and he was so kind to me. And he said, I'd had a copy of Luke with me because I was doing it back at drama school later on. And I said, and he said, do you like Luke? Do you like, do you like Orton? And I went, God, Albert, he's brilliant. He says, Albie. And I went, no, I said, Albert, he's brilliant. He's a genius. He said, well, I think so too. He said, I did that, and to send Mr. Sloan at the Royal Court. He said, well, I'm going to do Luke at the Royal Court as well. And he said, do you want to do it? And I went, what? Luke at the Royal Court? You know what the Royal Court was then? And I went, yeah, you bet. Yes. And he, well, you could do it. Richard could do it too. And I went, yeah, you could do it one together. That was the other boy. And I said, yeah, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, fantastic. All right. Yeah. Okay. So we go in, final studio, last day. So I sign it, I'm doing my last scene with him. And really good scene. And we do it in one take. And he says, and at the end of it, I'm so upset at leaving it. I go, can I do one more? And they said, no, you don't need to do one more. You don't need to do one more. They're running out of time anyway. And the director came down, really kind. And this wonderful producer, Graham, it came down extraordinary from head. That's a shirt. Hi, Graham. Very good. Lovely. He said, that was absolutely terrific. What you did today was absolutely wonderful. I went, oh, Graham, I said, I wanted to do one more take. He said, there's no time for that. He said, but I'm telling you now, you'll be back in my, you'll be on my list forever. And I went, well, I've got to go back to drama school now. And he went, I know. All right, but thank you. And I said, it's like, so Albert comes up to me and he says, you all right? And I went, I said, yeah. And he said, what's wrong? And I'm absolutely floods of tears. I'm going, I didn't do it. Right, okay, come on. So pick me up. Can I do? And went to the little makeup room on TC3 and went, right, girls, out, everybody out. No, I don't want any of that. I've got to finish this off. I'm cleaning this up. Small one. But inside this. And he said, right, out, thank you. No, don't. Right, you sit there. And so I'm sitting on the makeup counter with the lights bright, and he went, right, okay. I'm going to tell you something now, he said, which I never talk about, all right? I'm on Murder on the Orient Express, and it's a big movie, and I'm playing him, and I'd seen it, and I said, I'm playing him. And I said, I saw you in it, right, good. He said, I'm there with all the wig on, I've got a moustache, I've got the big speech, and I do. And lovely George, who's directing it, he says, Albert, great Albie. So we do 4 takes, and I go, right, okay. And he says, Albie, print 1 and 4. And got it, print 1 and 4. And so the And they then start to deconstruct the whole of the set. All of it. We're in a train, as you know, he said, but everything starts to go. All the lights go down. And I turn around to George, I want to do one more. And he went, Albert, that's absolutely fine. Reset, everybody, reset. And it's a huge 2-hour deal. And so they have to reset it. Everybody's waiting. It's the end of the day. And they get me back on eventually. And I'm there. Everything's the makeup's there. And the camera's there. And George says, Albert, we're ready for you. Okay. So I then say, yeah, okay, right. Turn over. Okay. Green light, red light, and bell green. And action. So I do my speech in close on, I think. Yes. That's the one, I'll be paranoid. That's the one. So I get to the end of the take, he said, I'll finish it off, and it's all a lot of detail to get out as well. So he says, what it, Alan? Oh, thank you. Thanks, George. Thanks, mate. And he went, yeah. Well done, Alan. Between 1 and 4. Oof. And that is, he said, you never know.
No.
You're only 18 now. You're at drama school. You see there. You'll never know when you're doing your great work. All right. You just don't know. He said, but you're a player. He said, so you have a go, and then sometimes you get it wrong. And it doesn't matter if it takes 2 hours for them to relight it, but it's not great for them, on their budgets and things. He said, but we never ever know.
Well, here we are, back in the shed. Our rambles for now are ended. And Daniel Hill, that was a hell of a ramble. This is remarkable.
Well, you know what? I've had an absolute ball of a time. And I've been to all these wonderful places that you've taken me to. I'm only afraid that, Tony is, if his incontinence improves, can you please get in touch with me immediately? And I'll work with old Harvey Baines and get him in there, if you like.
We will certainly do that.
I've had a wonderful time. You really put me back in touch with, and I'm sorry if I just rambled too much for you, really.
Oh, yep, you're good. You can never ramble too much here. No, really. We will be asking you back, I assure you. And thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for listening at home. And we really hope that all of you enjoyed this week's meeting of the Rambling Club too.
The club meets every Friday, but if you'd like to get in touch in the meantime, here's how you can find your fellow members.
Tony's official website is at www.tonyslattery.com, and you can get in touch with us on the contact form on the website.
We're on Twitter at Slattery Live. Please feel free to use the hashtag TSLC to discuss any of this week's topics.
I'm still lurking somewhere on the burning hellscape that is Twitter at Paul Carmichael V, but you can also find me on Blue Sky.
Yay! And Tony's on Blue Sky, of course. The Rambling Club is at Rambling Club. And Tony also has a Facebook group, which is www.facebook.com/the_Tony_Slattery.
And he's on Instagram as well, at Tony_Slattery_official.
And how would people go about finding our guest president, Sir Daniel Hill, if they want his social media?
Well, gentlemen, send me on Twitter and Facebook. I'm back on Facebook. I was hacked for a while, but yes, Facebook. And I'm hoping that all you lot will be, with me as well on Facebook, or depending if you owe the incontinency problems that it's.
Oh, we will find you, don't worry.
People want to join the Rambling Clubs themselves, Paul. How do they do that?
Well, what they can do is they can head to www.patreon.com/Slattery Live. The club is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's all sorts of perks for members there. You can get your club badges. There's, of course, pictures of Tony. There's Tony's archive we're going through. And 2 podcasts a month nobody else will hear, which is myself, Alan, and lovely Mark, Tony's partner. So head over to www.patreon.com/Slattery Live.
Yes, and if you've enjoyed listening to guest president Daniel Hill talk about home economics, why not head over to wherever you get your podcasts and leave us 5 stars or a lovely looking review. You can bake in your favourite features.
It was all right, that one. And we will be back for another ramble next Friday at 5 to 5. We hope that you'll join us again. But in the meantime, it's a goodbye from myself, Paul Carmichael. It's a goodbye from a colleague, Mr. Alan Lear.
Goodbye.
And it is a goodbye from our very special guest president, Mr. Daniel Hill.
Yay! Thank you.
You have been listening to Tony Slattery's Rambling Club with our special guest president, Daniel Hill. He was accompanied by Stephen Fry as the voice of the bingo machine. Acting President Hill was assisted by Paul Carmichael and Alan Lear. The music was composed and performed by Michael Livesley and Andy Frizzle. Silly voices are by Michael Livesley and the show's concept is by Paul Carmichael. Our producers are Stuart Morris and Alan Dybing and the show's researcher is Sola Carmichael. The show's producers are Erica Lear and Mark Hutchinson and the series executive producer is Mark Strickson. Tony Slattery's Rambling Club is a Fanfaniddle production.
Goodbye, and thank you for listening.